Alright, what's up guys? Well, first of all, I just want to say that I am using a new software to record this, so if the audio's messed up at all or there's anything wrong with the video, feel free to let me know that, because honestly, I'm not going to watch this back after I record it. I'm just going to upload it, so you guys will watch this, and I won't. So if there's anything wrong with it, please do let me know in terms of audio or anything, but should be fine. We'll see. However, as you can see on my screen, this is going to be a tier list. Also, I need to remove all these characters off of it because this is not accurate, really. It's kind of old. Okay, alright, this is going to be a tier list video because honestly, the meta is in a pretty good spot right now. Things are drastically different than they were previous patch. Barbarians have been nerfed, clerics have been nerfed, wizards all have been nerfed. Everything is, everything kind of shaken up a bit. Just to start with, I don't think we have any characters that are incredibly OP. I think everything is relatively balanced. I do say relatively because some things are slightly better than others, certain builds are slightly better than others. But generally speaking, basically every character in the game has usefulness right now and has a playstyle that can put them in a good spot somewhere in the game, whether that be trios, solos, duos, yada yada, whatever it may be. Everything has some use. All right, and to start off with, I kind of want to probably go down towards what I think maybe the best characters to the worst. So in no particular order, we have, I think, Fighter, Barbarian, and Cleric all in S tier. These characters are pretty much better than everything else. I mean, mainly because these are the three potential frontline characters, and the best support character, Cleric, even after his nerfs, is still very, very good. Argue if I had to pick a best character, I would probably say it's still Cleric, which, I mean, it's the only healer in the game. It still provides a lot of healing when your gear's really good. He has a much slower start now because of like the nerfs to his cast speed and stuff. However, whenever you do get that gear, the character is still pretty insane. Has a lot of healing that can put out. It's just pretty ridiculous. Then the other two characters, Barbarian, Fighter. These are just your generic frontline characters. For the most part, one of them is always going to be, at least one of these characters is always going to be one of the best characters, just because front lines are always necessary. Whether that be like a physical damage frontline like Fighter, magical damage frontline, resist like Barbarian, or physical, really. I mean, Barbarian can kind of do it all. However, we did see a lot of nerfs towards Barbarian. Some people were like, oh, I'm trying to think, like, what? Like, oh, Barbarian got buffed, Barbarian got buffed. No, it's not the case. Barbarian has been nerfed. The Blood Exchange, Achilles, like build. I'm just gonna be honest with you guys. Outside of solos, which once again, no one cares about solos. No one cares about solos. Let me be honest. No, you can't. Okay, this is gonna be another video, but you cannot balance the game around solos. I will explain why later, and so just look out for that video. But you cannot balance around solos. However, like I was saying, Barbarian with Blood Exchange and Achilles Strike is not very good. It's very gimmicky. It's very cheese. If you know that it's coming, which is not hard to tell, it's very obvious when they pop Achilles and pop Blood Rage. All you have to do, usually if they use it on a Francisca, which is where it's best, just don't get hit by the Francisca. Then their Achilles is gone, and then they'll try to run at you and just run away until Blood Rage ends. Treat it the same way you treat Fighter popping Second Wind. Don't try to burst them down through it. Just kind of back off, let it wear out, and then re-engage. That's the best way to deal with that. However, like I said, I do think in solos it's a little bit harder to deal with because, it's a lot harder to run away from them, that type of thing. And if you do get hit by it, you're kind of just dead. No one can really help you. However, if a Barb gets on you anyways, you're probably dead regardless for most characters. So it doesn't really change much. It just makes him better at what he's already doing. But then pretty much everything else about Barbarian got nerfed. We saw their armor choices get nerfed. Warmaw got nerfed. I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Probably. There's definitely something else. It's just 5 o'clock in the morning right now, and I cannot remember everything they nerfed about Barbarian. However, Barbarian did get nerfed. And because Barbarian got nerfed and Cleric got nerfed and everything, Fighter became better, which is our next character. Fighter became much, much better. Fighter is now one of the better characters in the game, partially because now Fighter can actually deal with Barbarian. Like, wahoo, we did it. We're finally allowed to play the game, guys. Let's go. Fighter players W. Well, Fighter can now deal with Barbarian. Fighter versus Barbarian is now a very, very skill-dependent matchup. It comes down to a lot of positioning, a lot of zoning, a lot of spacing, and a lot of blocking. If you can do all that properly, you can beat Barbarian. However, if the Barbarian is better than you and consistently is able to avoid your shield with their weapon, and they can space better than you, they're going to beat you, which is good. The game is in a good spot now because most of the matchups are really skill dependent. And it's no like it used to be, previous patches, Barbarian would just roll over Fighter no matter what. However, that's not the case anymore. Fighter actually has a really good chance. I've been playing Fighter pretty much exclusively this patch, now that it's playable again, and every Barbarian I've ran into, I haven't felt like, okay, this guy just beats me, like, there's something I can do. It's like, okay, like, I'm outplaying this guy, I can actually beat him. Like, sure, it might take a bit longer to kill them because, his Barbarians are still very tanky. Like, their damage got nerfed. Barbarians are still very, very tanky. However, if you play right, you can still kill them. Or you can kill them now, which is really, really good. Really good. And then for our next characters in A tier, I think we have Ranger, Wizard, and Bard. It's hard to put these in any particular order. I think because I don't feel like putting Wizard last doesn't feel good. However, putting Bard first doesn't feel. Putting Bard over Ranger doesn't feel good either. Because I do think Ranger and Bard are probably a bit better than Wizard. I think this is very close. I think all three of these right here are incredibly close. Very, very close. Some people are like, oh, Wizard's unplayable now. Wizard's awful. It's unplayable. No haste invis. Wham, wham. No, it's not. No, it's not unplayable. Now, on Wizard, you have to actually think about how you're fucking positioning. You don't just get to run around and then you have 5 get out of jail free cards with invis because you pop it and no one knows where you're going. You don't have that anymore. Now you have to play like any other damage class of where, oh, if I put myself out of position, I'm gonna die. I can't just haste invis and be gone, which is how Wizards were able to play before. This happens every time some character has something really, really good about them and it gets removed. People are like, oh no, the class has become unplayable. We've had whatever thing removed about us. It's like, wham, like, no, you just have to play your class differently now because you don't have that stupid thing that you never should have had to begin with. For example, a really good example is when Bards got Tranquility nerfed. Everybody cried that played Bard. Oh my god, Bard is unplayable now. We don't have Tranquility. When they made it so you had to sit down to get the Tranquility healing, they cried and they cried and they cried. Like, oh my god, this character is now awful, unplayable. We can't heal anymore. It's like, yeah, does it suck that you don't have it anymore? Absolutely. But you never should have had it in the first place. That never should have been something the character was allowed to do. And look what happened. Look what happened whenever they removed Tranquility. Bard was still one of the best characters in the game. They're still receiving nerfs several patches later. Bard was still one of the best characters in the game after they got rid of the healing. It's the same thing for Wizard. Is Wizard fallen a bit farther? Yeah. But it's still like A tier, which is fine. A tier is balanced. Like, Wizard is in a good spot. They still do a ridiculous amount of damage. Like, that has not changed. Is it a little bit more gear dependent? Yeah, but that's okay. However, you still do an insane amount of damage when you get that gear. Now, you're just not as safe. So if you put yourself out of position to try to get a big spell off, then you can die very, very easily. Can you be ran down? Yes. Once again, that just happens. You're not supposed to be a high mobility class. You're supposed to be a low mobility class that if people go on you, they can kill you. That's kind of just how your class is designed, how it's supposed to work. Then I have people comment, say, yeah, but Wizard's useless in solos. Okay? Like, that, once again, that just comes back to saying, that is just some classes are just designed bad. Like, they're not designed bad, it's they can't work in certain situations. Wizard is inherently bad in solos. All the things that are good in solos can beat Wizard. Everything can run Wizard down. It can, if a Wizard, if it's lacking for even a second, Ranger can insta-kill it. Rogue can insta-kill it. Bard can kill it. Fighter can kill it. Barb can kill it. Everything can kill Wizard for the most part. The only thing Wizard can beat is, Cleric, Warlock. And, to be fair, I mean, they're, not bad in caves. They're not the most common characters because no one really likes playing them. However, that's enough on Wizard. I should have talked about the first one first. We have Ranger. Ranger is in a much better spot now. Their damage overall isn't quite as high as it has been. However, if you have really good gear, nice physical power stacking, that type of thing, decent amount of strength, you can still hit pretty high numbers. I've seen people headshotting on Ranger on the target dummies for around 130 to 140 with really insane gear, and it's like, hey, that's not bad. I mean, that is acceptable damage. it's not how it used to be, where if you had a longbow, you could headshot the dummy for 200, but 130 to 140, like that's still very, very high damage. So if you're playing Ranger right now, you get a good kit on, you hit your shots, you will be rewarded for it, which is great. That's how it should work. The class's damage isn't too high. If you're feeling if you're squishy, you might disagree. However, I mean the class is a damage class, so it is supposed to do a certain amount of damage. Other than that, not really much to mention about it. Ranger's kind of straightforward right now. Nothing too special about it. Nothing too bad about it. It's kind of a solid class. My one gripe with the class is I do feel the class has a bit too high mobility. I feel like recently I've been playing like a lot of Goblin Caves, just messing around, doing some zero to hero stuff, and I do feel that Ranger has really high movement speed in terms of, like from their stats and the gear they wear. I do feel like that's really, really high. So Rangers are very good at kiting, my experience. I don't know. I don't think that's the problem. I'm toning it out a little bit, but it is what it is. Movement speed is generally just annoying. That's like an entire different rant on movement speed. Movement speed is the best stat in this game, hands down. Alright, on to the next characters. We have Rogue and Warlock. I think this is like, so these characters are in B tier, which means they're worse than these. However, I don't think they're much worse. I think, so one thing to consider, by the way, for the most part, oh wait, I forgot, no, I didn't talk about Bard, my bad, hold on, my bad. Sorry. So, Bard is still a good character, still provides nice team buffs. They buffed rapier damage when they buffed sword damage, which directly was a Bard buff, because Bards use rapiers as their main weapon generally. Same with falchions if they want to use a falchion, so Bards did get a bit of the weapon damage back that they lost. The reason Bards kind of got hit pretty hard by the weapon damage nerfs and stat nerfs overall is because they like stacking damage. Because if you just play yourself as a song character in this current meta, you're not as useful. You really want your crossbow to hit, you want your rapier to hit, or your falchion or arming sword or whatever weapon you choose. But when they nerfed all the weapon damage, Bards couldn't really do that as much anymore. However, they got a little bit of that back, so Bards are still in a good spot. Once again, like I said, songs are still strong. They still have access to the crossbow even though it's nerfed, so they have good ranged options. Bard's just overall pretty good character right now. I think Bard is one of the best examples, though, out of all of these, is that you have to understand Bard, and you have to play it well. If you play Bard poorly right now, it will be very, very apparent. But also, on the other side, if you play it well, it will also be very, very apparent. Because Bard is a character that can be really, really useful and really, really good, or it can be really, really useless and really, really bad. If you are not making use of all the tools you have available to you on Bard, then you will make this character look absolutely unplayable and atrocious. However, like I said, if you are good, it will look like one of the best characters in the game. Now, on to the next two characters, Rogue and Warlock. So like I said, these characters are in B tier. However, one of the main reasons I think Rogue is in one of the best spots it's been in for quite a while now. Since before, when Rogue was actually really good. I think that was the last time it's probably been in a better spot. However, right now, because we got damage buffed again, once again, I mentioned like Rapier before, which is one of Rogue's favorite weapons. They got a lot of their damage back from that. Same with like short sword buffs. So Rogues actually do a decent amount of damage again. We're back to that spot where like landmine Rogues can kind of just two-shot you if they get good gear. We did see those double jump nerfs. However, it's not a huge nerf. On a way, it's good because now you can kind of spam double jump without like really caring, because it doesn't give you like the movement penalty from landing as much anymore. You kind of just always have a slightly lower penalty. However, Rogues are still insanely fast, and they're still outrunning pretty much any character in the entire game. But other than that, not a whole lot to mention. I think Rogues are pretty solid right now. Really. I mean, obviously they still have their weaknesses in terms of, they're very, very reliant on stealth. If their stealth gets broken, they don't really get to do much. But other than that, if you are able to play your stealth well and not get revealed by whatever it may be, because one thing is Bards are kind of out of the meta, but like not out of the meta, but Bards are not on every team anymore, and most Bards that are, because of the song limit they have now, they don't really get to run Din, they don't really get to run Shrill, so they don't really get to check for like every corner like they used to for Rogues. Same with Wizards. Wizards aren't just throwing light orbs around willy-nilly like they used to, because you could drink Clarities or have the Chorale of Clarity restore you. You get to sit down for your spells. So no one's checking for Rogues as much anymore. So Rogues, this might be your time. You start hiding in them shadows again. No one's checking for you. And then Warlock. Warlock's pretty definitively the worst character in the game right now. With that being said, I don't think they're awful. I think the big issue with Warlock is Warlock has a really, really bad start. they just increase the cost of all your spells in terms of HP. So now Curse of Pain, unironically, I don't even think Curse of Pain restores the HP it uses anymore from Torture Mastery, like as like a level 1 Warlock, which sucks. Which is like, I mean, like what the fuck? Combine that with, like pretty bad stats. Unironically, the best way to start as a Warlock is you don't run any spells, and then you run Phantomized Blow of Corruption and try to one-tap people with like Magic Staff. That is like the best way to play Warlock until you get some magical healing gear. And then the problem with Warlock later on, because like I said, they do have a bad start. However, the problem with Warlock that it's not really like a balancing issue. It's kind of just the class and how it's designed. Is Warlock is really bad in a team setting, or in a normal team comp. There are certain things you can run, like if you run all range characters, like I think the best comp Warlock will work in is like Ranger Cleric Warlock, because it's kind of just all zoning. However, then you have the issue of you can't push people if you need to, which is really bad. So it's like, why not just substitute that Warlock for something else? But the issue with Warlock in normal team comps is his entire kit kind of griefs your team. Hydra, for example, which can be one of your biggest spells in a fight, just kind of shoots towards an enemy, which can very easily shoot your teammates. And if you have a fighter, you can melt your fighter very fast. You can accidentally hit people with all your spells because you have like things like Bolt of Darkness, which is a fat, slow-moving projectile, relatively slow. So Warlock is kind of just like a worse version of Wizard. It's Wizard with no spell limits, or no like limit on spell usages. However, it also doesn't have any of Wizard's upsides in terms of really good, easy to hit, high damage abilities. Wizard does significantly more damage than Warlock with significantly less gear. One of the worst things about Warlock is how insane the gear requirement is. You need magical healing, you need magical damage, you need base stats. You need all three of these things just to be in a decent kit on Warlock, because you can't have none of them. You absolutely have to have magical healing, because otherwise your character literally does not function. It doesn't. The only argument that you can make is if you run Life Siphon, which heals you for a ton and it scales off your magical power. However, if you do this, then you're running pretty much a useless PvP spell. It's strictly just a healing spell. And then you need to run Hydra, and your Hydra has to spawn near you, so it's basically 2 PvE spells, because Hydra isn't actually doing a lot. So it's then, what are you running for PvP? Are you just running like Curse of Pain, like Power of Sacrifice, Bolt? I mean, you can. However, once again, it's like you're just running a Wizard with less damage with higher requirements for the other things you need. But anyways, that pretty much sums it up for the tier list. I think this is pretty accurate. I think this is the most balanced the meta's ever been. Like, we do have some disparity between S tier and B tier. However, I think this is the best it's ever been. Pretty much every character has some use here. Even with me complaining about Warlock, when your gear is really good, Warlock is solid in solos. Rogue's pretty solid in solos, duos, and trios. And all these other 6 characters are pretty much good in everything. Wizard's not good in solos, but everything else here is good in solos, duos, and trios to some extent. But anyways, this will sum it up for the video. Once again, if you guys have any opinions on your own or thoughts, feel free to leave them down below. And like I said, I am testing out a new software to record this, so feel free to let me know if the sound settings and everything are good. Is there anything to improve or not? But until next time, I'll catch y'all later. Peace.